Welcome to the After Dark podcast with Anthony James and Konrad. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
Hello, and welcome to the After Dark podcast. I'm Anthony, and that's Konrad.
Hello.
That's him. Well, we're motoring through dark at this point. We are only 4 episodes from the end. There's Konrad at the wheel. Konrad's at the wheel.
On through.
You know, he doesn't actually have his driving license, but he's at the wheel. I trust you. I trust you anyway. You've pretty much learned how to drive in London too, so we'll give it to you. Probably better driving.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
That was all a setup. That was planned. That was absolutely planned. Well, Konrad, perfect. How have you been this week?
Not bad, thank you. The festive season is well and truly upon us.
It is.
And with it has come... I was going to say there's more dark. There isn't more dark. It's exactly the same amount of dark as I was watching previously. But it's got a spring in my step and a song in the air as I watch dark now.
Yeah, there is. I'm like, I did a Dark Discussions episode on what genre is dark, and I was joking about it. Like, is it a Christmas film? Oh, I don't know.
Could be. Everything's a Christmas movie these days, apparently.
Well, everything's Christmas. Yeah. You know, the person, I can't remember his name, and I'm an idiot for not remembering his name, but the guy who wrote White Christmas was actually
Bing Crosby.
No, did he write it? I don't know if he wrote it.
Maybe not.
The guy who wrote it is actually Jewish, and when asked, like, you know, it's a Christian holiday, what are you doing? He's like, Christmas isn't a Christian holiday. Christmas is an American holiday.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm sure the enormous amount of money that guy made from White Christmas helped to salve the wounds of having to write a song for a Christian holiday as a Jewish person.
Yeah, and they took Halloween too. Halloween, I think, was originally Irish, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, they took it. We used to carve turnips.
They improved it.
Carve turnips, you know, but they changed it to the pumpkin.
I like American Halloween, to be honest.
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, so do I, and it's Ema's favourite thing. I actually met Ema, a little bit of tidbit here, I met Ema at Halloween party.
There you go.
At Emmett's Halloween party, who joins me on Saturdays for Sci-Fi Saturday. It's all coming
Worlds
together.
Colliding. Worlds colliding.
When we were 17 years old, at his party, we met. That's where we met.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. All right, guys. Well, there we go. What about we talk about a bit of dark? Actually, no. Before we talk about dark, we've got an announcement to make. Now, I promised on Dark Discussions that this episode of the After Dark podcast, we were going to make the announcement of what we are going to be doing next. Now, before we show it, I'm really excited about showing this show to Konrad. I will have a proviso before I show it, though. There was hundreds of suggestions throughout the weeks. I literally couldn't have pleased everyone with this selection. So what I did was I went back to what made me want to do this podcast idea. I went back to, I want to show Konrad a show that I love. Okay? So I did it for purely selfish reasons. And here it is. Hello, and welcome to the
July
After Dark podcast.
of 2020.
I'm Anthony James, and that's
Two
Konrad.
Friends embarked on a journey through one of the most mysterious shows ever made. Netflix's Dark. And against both of their expectations, thousands joined them on their journey. We all laughed. We all cried. We were all impressed by Konrad's theories, no matter how daft. But now, a new day is dawning. We searched far and wide for a TV show that would match all of our criteria. And then we found one. The OA. It's a mysterious, compelling, and spiritual show that is sure to get Konrad's heart pumping. And even though it was cancelled after 2 seasons, it's worth the ride. For anyone who's seen it, imagine Konrad's reaction to the final scene. So now it's over to you. I've given you a month. We are starting on the 1st of February. If you haven't seen the OA, you have a decision to make. Do you want to be an Anthony? Do you want to have seen the show and know what's coming when Konrad makes his crazy theories? Or do you want to be a Konrad and experience it with him and make theories in the comments? This is a big decision. Which will you be? An Anthony or a Konrad? Episode 1 will be on the After Dark podcast on the 1st of February. Get watching.
So there you have it. The OA is what we're going to be doing, Konrad. Are you excited?
I am. This is my excited face. I don't know that much about that show, but
Oh,
you've definitely
okay.
recommended it to me before, and there's going to be lots of wordplay like that, I imagine, in the early runnings. But yeah, very much looking forward to it, and I hope everyone listening at home or wherever you may be listening to the podcast is excited too.
Yeah, like I'm very excited. I'm honest with you. There's people who've seen the OA, and there's people who have not. The people who've seen the OA will know there are particular themes within the OA that are present in Dark as well. Now we have to address the elephant in the room. Yes, it is cancelled after 2 seasons, and that I think was a point of contention when I first started bringing this up to Konrad. No, there was never a point of contention, but I think there was a discussion between us whether that would play or not. I've decided in the end it will, and the reason for that is that the people who love the OA really would like to hear Konrad's predictions about what he thinks would happen next. And we know how good Konrad is predicting things, so we're going to make it canon. Whatever Konrad thinks is going to happen next is what happens next.
Oh, well, after it's cancelled.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'm happy to shoulder that responsibility.
Yeah.
I've just checked and it's got Jason Isaacs in it, who I really like as an actor. So
Jason Isaacs is fantastic in it. Yeah.
That's a good sign.
And Jason Isaacs has also been quoted saying that he'll never do anything as original as DOA again.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and also what's great about it is the last scene before it's cancelled. I cannot wait for you to see it because it's something that needs to be experienced, and
Okay.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait because you are gonna hate the fact that it's cancelled. Like,
Oh, okay. I thought you were just going to say you're going to hate the final scene, but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I can't believe Dark's. Well, I can't believe we're wrapping up Dark. To be honest, like it feels like we've only started doing this like a month ago, but here we are.
yeah, but here we are. Like, so one more thing about the OA before we move on to more Dark for the rest of this podcast is that that's going to start on the 1st of February. So it said in the package there, 1st of February. That's when we're going to be doing it. Just to sort of give you a little bit of a heads up, you need to choose whether you're going to be an Anthony or a Konrad. If you've not seen the OA, you've got a choice to make. We're giving you a month. That's why we're letting you know now rather than like the week before. Because I like the idea of you participating, and there's been a lot of participation. With Dark, we've all seen it. Konrad's a guinea pig here. But you can decide to be a guinea pig on the wheel with him next time. And I think there's going to be some people who do decide to do that, which I think will be really fun.
Yeah, come join me on the wheel.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is if that is the case, I am going to have to police the comment section of the YouTube video quite heavily because I can see people just writing down what happens in the show and pretending to predict it.
They would never.
No.
Stealing my idea for Dark. That's how I've been getting all these theories right.
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh, we all knew that. But also, just to rest you, this is a long thing I know, but it's the last one before Christmas. This is just to put your mind at ease about the Dark as well. I've been talking to Emmett and Konrad. I haven't actually run this by you, but I'm sure you'll be okay with this. In between the OA and our next show, if the OA goes successfully and we want to continue, in between the OA and our next show, I floated this to Emmett and he was okay with it. He's never seen Dark. So what we might do is we'll do like a full season 1, do one podcast, and the next week do the full season 2 podcast with him, and then we'll do a season 3. So there'll be 3 weeks of Dark between the OA and our next show. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm looking forward to laughing at someone's wild theories rather than just having to laugh at my own or someone else's wild theories.
I think that'll be good fun. If we found someone who hasn't seen Dark in between every other show, like, we eventually amass this, we're the place people go to see Dark for the first time.
Yeah, we become a Dark like podcast reaction channel essentially, and just find people off the street to be like, come watch Dark and we can laugh at you.
Just scraping the barrel. We'll eventually get the actor who plays Old Helga because he's forgotten it all anyway. But all right, guys. Well, anyway, we have to get into this because it's going to be a long episode as it is. Next. I'll say this as well. Don't worry, because we are including the question and answers in this video. We're not going to be able to get to them all. If you have any questions for episode 5, put them in this video. So we'll be able to include them in the next one, but we won't be able to use them all for this one. But that's because next Friday which is going to be Christmas Day, we've got a very special upload for you, and we're gonna sort of skip it over the question and answers for that week.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
I'm not
you're acting as if it's the first time you've heard of it.
Yeah. It may be an idea Danny and I have discussed a fair bit over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I may have played a part in it. That's all I'll say.
So if anyone's still with us in this intro and they're having to skip forward to the main section,
well done.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's get into the main section now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, let's break it down!
So the episode opens, and you pointed this out to me just before we started going, because I didn't even pick up on this, because I'm such an idiot, right? Because I was just like, I wasn't expecting it at all. They opened with the title card before the credits.
Unprecedented. An opening title card for Dark.
Yeah, and it was the origin. Obviously they showed us...
What is this, a Star Wars movie? What are we doing here?
Yeah, so because they showed it to us, we have to go back to our old way. So I have to have a go at pronouncing it first.
Yeah.
And then you can have a go. So, Der Ursprung.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much right. I can't actually remember where the umlauts, or if there are umlauts in this, but yeah, Der Ursprung, I think, is how I would say that.
Ursprung. Okay, yeah. So I think we've just nailed that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I love it. Every time we say that, the comments say, actually...
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty obvious why they showed the title card first, because it says the origin, and then cut to Toronto walking through the woods, and here he is, Mr. Unknown, and it gets revealed that he never actually had a name, this fella.
Yeah, which is a shame. Everyone should have a name, especially around Christmas. Otherwise, how's Santa gonna find you?
I will say, I can't remember who commented this on a video, but I'm pretty sure they were lying, and I never checked it because it was clearly a lie. They said, if you actually go to the Dark website, his name's Gary.
I'd love that to be true. Gary Obendorf.
Yeah. Gary for short. Gerald.
Gerald Obendorf. Yeah, no, it's they get straight into it in this episode, really. And as we'll find out as we kind of go through this, I had a hard time kind of not coming up with theories as a result of this episode, but feeling like they were reasonable for me to put down, because there are so many things that this episode is like, come on, this is pretty much confirmed. So in this first scene, and then pretty much, well, they get you about 70% of the way there in this first scene, and they get you like 95% of the way there by the end of this episode, that these guys are Tronta's dad, and these are the guys.
Oh, you're 100%. You're 100% that these guys are Tronta's dad. At the end of the episode, because it literally shows him on the family tree, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, that you're right. It does. Yeah. So I put it down in the 3 Matrix at this bit, but then I was like, by the end of the episode, I was like, we might have to revisit this, because I don't know if I can in good conscience claim it.
Counts. If you're entering it before you've realized, I think it counts. It's a bit. We have to trust you, but I trust you.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's this episode is like very. There's a lot of like revelations about these characters in this episode that are really interesting, and if we didn't already like suspect them of being evil, there's this assertion that like we are drawn to the dark like moths are to the light, which the we there I take to mean humanity rather than just these three, is a very kind of like fatalistic outlook on the human race. This sort of idea that humans can't help but drive themselves towards the abyss. Which is maybe how they justify their behavior, because they think they're just sort of helping things along the natural path that humanity is going to take anyway. But yeah, it's a really interesting intro. This we also get some hints into the relationship between Tronta and Agnes, because Tronta doesn't seem that bothered that his mum has just like vanished for 3 months.
Well, we do know that he was in an orphanage. You know,
that's true.
Before she came to Vinden in the first season, she just picked him up from the orphanage, so he didn't really have that much of a relationship with her to begin with.
Yeah, that's true. But like, you know, they give her this keepsake of hers, and by the end of the episode, he's completely rejected it and just, you know, palmed it off to someone else.
Yeah. I will say something that I noticed about the scene, which I thought was fantastic, was that in the past, around the caves, there's a particular tree that certain characters hide behind. Noah hid behind it.
Noah's hiding tree. Yeah,
Noah's hiding tree. The stranger hid behind it to watch their younger selves, or watch Jonas, right? Now, the unknown, or the cleanup crew, as you've dubbed them, they are so bought in to Eva's idea and Adam's idea, I suppose, that everything is predetermined. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you do. Everything will happen the way it does. So the fact that he's so frivolous and he just stands in front of the tree. He's not behind it. He's not hiding watching Tronto walk. He's standing in front of the tree and he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, it doesn't matter what I do. I'm just going to go and talk to him, and I'm not going to hide. I just felt like the difference, like it's sort of, we've talked in the past about parallels and perpendiculars. The perpendicular, I'm keeping it going. The perpendicular of him standing in front of the tree and then going to talk to Tronto rather than just hiding behind it, I thought that was really worked
Yeah,
well.
that's an interesting point, actually. I've not thought about that, but I suppose that is these characters are almost completely devoid of humanity. They don't seem to possess any emotion, really. Like, they don't even seem angry. They just seem cold and calculating and fearless. And even characters like Noah had some humanity about them. Maybe not to begin with Noah, but as we learn more about him, there were shreds of humanity there, and I just don't see that with these guys.
No, not at all. Righto, so we'll talk more about them as the episode goes on, because this is really like a big reveal episode for them. The other main storyline in this episode is Hannah and Egon, and Hannah has found herself pregnant by Egon, which we find out later in the episode, but she also receives the St. Christopher pendant, so we see the origin of that.
Yes.
So what did you think about Hannah and Egon in this episode?
Well, I mean, you kind of knew this was coming after the end of season 2, but it's nice to get confirmation that Hannah's police fetish has not abated when she moves to the 1950s. The St. Christopher thing is interesting. I have some thoughts about that, which we'll probably get into towards the end of the episode, as to who the kind of literal St. Christopher is in this story they're telling, but who else it might actually be. But just in this opening scene, I think it's really interesting that Egon kind of represents both aspects of Hannah's romantic personality here. So he tells her that he loves her, which is something she always wanted Ulrich to do. And then Hannah's response is to kind of be disinterested and almost maybe a bit kind of put off by the fact that he's told her that he loves her, and maybe makes her feel a bit superior to him as well, I think, in the way that she performs it. And then when that like declaration of love fails, he turns to like commenting on her physical appearance, which, given he's just told her that he can't see her tonight, so she's feeling that sense of rejection, makes her sort of vulnerable and angry. And this is really great little exchange between them, and a great example of why, no matter what happens, talking about that sort of determinism of everything will always happen the way it has always happened, that's kind of captured in Hannah's character, and this is a great example of why she will never be happy, because when someone does the things that she thinks she wants someone to do to her, like say they love her, she feels put off by it. She feels like, I don't know, I guess the chase is gone or something.
The chase is gone, exactly.
Yeah, but then when someone pulls back from her, she gets angry and bitter about it, and it's a really, really great demonstration of those two kind of conflicted sides of her personality.
It's also, to be honest with you, a very like immaturity. Like I've talked before about how I don't believe, like, she's one of the characters in my opinion who didn't grow from in any way from her teenage self through to now. If anything, she grew more childlike in terms of her sort of reactionary emotions. So I think obviously you could argue that the unknown didn't really change either, but that's here.
If that's the company you're keeping, though, like if then you've screwed up, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's a very childlike, or sort of, I'll not say childlike, I'll say it's very, very immature.
It's childish.
Way to be. It's sort of, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't with this character, because you can't please her. She can't be pleased.
Yeah.
So what about the 50s porn?
Oh, great stuff. Love it.
Enos is loving it.
I'm not sure how to read Claudia's description of Tronta's penis in this scene.
Come on, refresh my memory. I want to hear you say it.
I don't know that describing someone's penis as peculiar is a glowing review, if I'm honest. Like I feel like, but the words she chooses, like, it's sort of saying it's as if it's not attached to his body. I don't even know where to. I can't begin unpacking that. It's just like, what does that mean? I don't know.
He just keeps it. He keeps it in his pocket.
Maybe it is detachable.
Maybe, yeah. That's the thing. Like, look who his
Yeah.
dad is. Like, you know, you never know. Like, he could be a weird time mutant person. But
Yeah, that is true. That's entirely possible.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's I do agree with Claudia's assertion as well that there should be porn mags with men in them as well. These poor girls are just having to make do with the men around them, which is fine for Claudia, but Yana and Ines, not so lucky.
very fine for Claudia by the end of this episode. We'll find out. So the Yana storyline is beginning in this episode. We've talked before about Yana Tronta Claudia triangle, love triangle. So how did you feel that went this episode in terms of building Tronta and a relationship with Yana?
It was more than I saw, or more than I predicted that they would do, to be honest. I thought the relationship with Yana is so kind of underdeveloped at this point that I felt like they just weren't going to do that much with it, because it would be difficult for them to fill in the gaps with how few episodes they have left. But it's interesting to see them forming a relationship this early on. I kind of thought she would be just watching him from afar or something like that, but it seems like there is, I don't know if I'd call it an intimacy, but there's a connection between them that is evident in this episode. That clearly, there's definitely a connection there. Yeah,
the way I felt it was like that. Tronta's one of these like sort of old souls who's sort of slow moving, and he's a bit actually a little bit of a romantic maybe, and Claudia's just like dragging him into her way, and like I don't think Claudia's doing anything particularly abusive or anything, but she's definitely spearheading their relationship. She's got
a very forceful personality.
She's very in control of that of their relationship. Which we'll discover as we move forward through the episode.
She does take control in certain scenes.
She does. Okay, so then we get Doris going to Egon at work. Obviously, it's a bit awkward because he was meant to be there already.
His excuse of just like something came up.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Egon. You gotta think faster on your feet than that.
We all know what came up, Egon.
Yeah.
we all know what
it's like a James Bond joke.
Yeah.
He's got to think faster on his feet than this. He's gonna get caught out.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's revealed that there was a handkerchief left back, and it was HT, and we learned the name of the priest is Hanno Toba.
Yeah, Hanno. Is it Toba or Tauba? I would say Tauba.
Tauba.
Yeah, Hanno Tauba. Which as soon as I saw that name, in the back of my head, I was like, shit, Mark Vashke's going to be in this episode. And I won't say anything about it now, but I was very happy later on in this episode, is all I'll say for now. Okay. In terms of this scene, though, well, actually, like starting off with this name, has this been mentioned before? Because I know you've said that there's, specifically related to the Sigmunder's Flaw, there's stuff that I might not get from it. Because...
This is what so basically, see that newspaper article? That was shown in season 1 or 2. I think it might have even been season 1, maybe. That was shown. And so the picture of it was on the internet. So we all knew, we've all known from very early that Hanno Tauba was his name.
Yeah, okay.
So that's... That and on Eva's floor, that name may or may not be there.
Well, I know I remember it. That's one of the names that I remember being.
Oh, you remember it was
on the floor.
You remember it was next to Agnes, and therefore that's why you knew Mark was going to be in the episode.
Yeah. So like as soon as I saw that, well, and she says the minister here, so I was like, shit,
yeah,
okay, like. Yeah, but so this is like this and Agnes are basically the two things I remember from that floor. But I didn't really know who this was when I saw the floor. But then when they mentioned it here, it all sort of clicked into place. But yeah, I was just interested. As soon as I saw this, I wanted to go and speak to you and be like, where have I missed this reference previously? Because I can imagine them sort of littering it throughout the show. But
it was a proper speck of dust. That then eventually, became a thing. The thing is as well, though, it sort of does confirm something that we never really theorized about it, but it did. We talked about it. The idea where Agnes got the name Nielsen from. This episode sort of confirms that her name maybe wasn't Nielsen, and then she is called Nielsen because of a relationship with the unknown, who, even though he doesn't have a first name, technically would be a Nielsen because of his mother.
Yeah, I guess so. Like it seems like by the end of this episode, it seems like the kind of names that have been selected for these people who are coming out of this origin are almost completely arbitrary, really.
Because they have to choose the right name because they know what they're meant to be called. Yeah.
Yeah. But and Hanno Tauber is a good example. It's like, who the hell is Hanno Tauber? Like, it's not a name. It's not a surname we've heard before. So how does that like actually fit in? I guess presumably he's not going to have any children. But I guess we would know about it if he had. But
Hanno Tauber,
yeah,
he's already had a child.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course he has. Yeah, so he just I guess he just couldn't give her his name. It'd be a bit of a giveaway.
Well, she was taken, and then she married a Doppler anyway. So,
but she would have been. I wonder actually. Yeah, I wonder what her surname was
before she got married. Her surname,
what was she?
Probably Tannhaus.
Yeah, I guess it probably was.
She was adopted by
Tannhaus.
Tannhaus.
Yeah,
Charlotte.
I'm trying to remember if we actually hear her referred to by a full name in the 80s at any point.
I don't think we do, but it might be Charlotte Tannhaus. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah. Unless she was Charlotte Tauber, maybe.
Yeah, it could be Tauber, yeah, as well. Yeah. Interesting. Get on it, internet detectives.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was such an exciting revelation. It just kind of, the first time anyone's mentioned Noah in 5 or 6 episodes, and
Noah.
Yeah. We get the comeback. But also, I found it really, like, not to harp on too much about this scene, this idea that, I don't know, maybe this is how it worked in the 50s in Germany specifically, but this idea that someone's mother just leaves and the boarding house where they were staying will just keep looking after the child without mentioning it for like to some government agency for 3 months. I feel like the police should probably be involved at this point, and they're just... Oh, I guess the police are involved.
These are the police. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So you didn't realise the police were involved because Egon's so incompetent.
Yeah, that's true. He's got the paperwork to get the Child Protection Services involved on his desk somewhere. He's just misplaced it.
He took the new evidence, the handkerchief, and he just went, put it in the pile with the rest.
Yeah, that's in the pile. Yeah. We've got some parking violations to look at first, Doris. I'll thank you. So wait your turn.
Yeah. I'll be home late tonight. Something's come up.
Yeah.
I can sense that it will come up later as well. Okay, so next we get what I really enjoyed seeing. We get a scene with old Magnus and Marta. Like middle Magnus, I suppose you could call him, because he's 33 years after the teenage version. But we get a scene between those two where Magnus is discussing the idea that you left us back in 1888, and then he realizes 33 years later, I realized it was us who did that, us who told you to do that. So that's really...
And it's interesting that the Alt Marta, even knowing that, is still the one apologizing in this scene. Like, she has that kind of compulsion to try and do the right thing, and knows that she has lied to... She's not even friends with this or she's not even a sister to this Magnus, but
no, she's literally spent maybe a day or two with him. Like, that's it.
Yeah, but she still has that compulsion to try and do the right thing, which Jonas also has. And it's interesting that Magnus doesn't really get as far as apologizing, which suggests that he's kind of fully indoctrinated at this point in whatever kind of dead end belief system he's stumbled into.
Yeah, I feel really sorry for Magnus, to be honest with you. Like,
yeah,
he's just been forced to go back to 1888 and join a cult. Like,
yeah, he just got railroaded into this cult, and now he's like someone who's too deep into Scientology to leave because they know all his secrets. So he's just like, I guess I'm in a suicide cult now. I gotta just make the best of it.
Yeah, you said that about Scientology, not me. So tail him.
I'll say it again about Scientology. Come at me.
Come at me. Okay, so then we get the scene in the bunker, which was ruined by Master Onion North last week. But
yeah, thanks, Master Onion North.
Yeah,
ruined this scene. Actually, I will say this: they didn't spoil the best thing that happens in the bunker in this episode, so all is forgiven as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, middle Alt Marta is talking to them. What did you think about? There's a couple of scenes actually throughout this episode of in this bunker, but the initial scene here. What did you think of it? I think that she's talking about here the idea that you can only save one of the worlds.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I think is probably worth mentioning is I really like the choice in the set dressing of this version of the bunker. I think it really compounds how messed up this version of the world is, where the fact it's all in chalk implies there aren't even scraps of paper or photographs for her to construct this this map of the family relations. She just has to kind of do it from memory and chalk. It's a really subtle way of kind of reaffirming the scale of the disaster that has affected this world. Yeah,
and I really love as well that like this is clearly her process, and eventually this will lead to what's on the floor.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I think I don't know if I believe her in these set of scenes where she's saying, "Oh, you're going to have to make a choice." I think that feels like manipulation to me, because her goal is clearly to say, "Well, if you save this world, you can stay and have sex with Marta, and she technically isn't your aunt, so how about that?" Yeah. Which feels way too convenient to actually be like the end point that we're driving at. So I don't necessarily believe that that's the case.
She does come across a little bit like Darren Brown in this. I will say, like really subliminal. Like as Jonas is running out the door, oh Jonas, by the way, if you want to have sex with her, you got my okay. She's she's really just trying to make some stuff happen, like.
Yeah, just like planting those little seeds into Jonas's mind. I don't know whether it was just in this scene, because I've not really thought about it before, although we've not seen her that much before. But I felt like the actress playing Stranger Marta is maybe a little young for this role. She looks like she could conceivably be in her like late 20s, early 30s, and has just dyed her hair grey. But maybe it was just how she looked in this scene.
I think the actress is 45, north of 45.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, fair enough. Maybe she just looks very good for her age.
Yeah, well, as does the Stranger Jonas.
But he
does
Stranger
look
Jonas.
At the same time.
He looks in his 40s, whereas she, I think, if you took away the grey hair dye for Stranger Marta, I could believe that she was in her early 30s.
Yeah, okay.
But good for her. She just looks good for her age.
Yeah, having said that, I highly doubt that they cast a 30-year-old, and I've seen pictures of her in other shows, and she doesn't look that young to me. But
it would be a pretty stark departure from their casting policy in the rest of this show to suddenly just be like, oh, whatever, cast a 30-year-old. No.
It would be very strange.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Doctor lights up a cigarette. You're pregnant, love.
Yeah. So I don't know what to make of the mirroring in this scene. Also, for a start, points for me. Thank you very much. I said this was going to happen. Said she was going to get preggers, and here we are. Mm-hmm. The mirroring of the Adam dialogue in 2053, where he says all human life is a gift, and then we get this doctor echoing that. I'm sure there's nothing in it, and it's just them choosing to reiterate the dialogue to show that this sentiment is not just present in crazy cult leaders, it's also present in what would have been in the 50s a fairly kind of patriarchal society, as maybe drawing comparisons to different kind of systems of social control.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. And yeah, Hannah's having herself a baby, apparently.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of an up and down situation this episode, but
yeah.
But eventually, it seems like she's settled on that. But so then Greta comes in. Egon's he's had the busiest day at work.
Oh my god, he cannot get a moment's peace in this episode.
So Greta comes in, and she's worried about old Hannah as well. And
her performance is so over the top in this scene. Like, she's almost like a caricature. Like, she's very funny. Yeah, she's just kind of crazy, to be honest. Greta. I've not got that much more to say about her than that.
Yeah, like what was it he said about like did you ever see this minister or priest with a woman? And she was like, oh, how dare you?
And like she know, well, she must know as well, because she had like, I don't know, I still think back to the scenes that she had with Noah, and there definitely felt like there was a sexual attraction.
That's what I was going to say. Like, was she saying that out of like respect for God or respect for the church, or was she saying that out of jealousy?
She wants him. Yeah, she wants the priest.
Yeah, 100%. Who doesn't? That man. Like, all right. So then Doris goes into the church, and
that's a great scene.
We get a little bit of dialogue. This is an amazing scene. Yeah. Actually, I'll let you go on this scene then if you want to begin with.
Well, so it's interesting the end of the previous scene between Doris and Egon, not the previous scene, but the previous scene that had Doris in it, you can see the effect that others have had on this couple, which is kind of like a recurring theme in this episode, and definitely in this scene. So Doris is clearly motivated by wanting to get Agnes back, because she presumably loves Agnes, and Egon says something which sounds a lot more like something Daniel Kahnwald would have said, where he's like, who knows what goes on in the minds of women, and then Doris storms off, and it seems immediately apologetic about it, but the damage is done. And then we see that theme returning again in this scene, where the unknown guys, the cleanup crew, they seem to just have a vested interest in splitting these guys up. They're doing similarly to what Stranger Marta was doing, just kind of sowing these seeds of potential adultery from Egon, and talking about all that, like the heart wants what the heart wants, and all this stuff, talking about it in quite a threatening way, but also they're not explicitly saying anything. It's quite nefarious how they're talking about it, but it's a great scene, and I love the kind of theatricality of the middle guy in the cleanup crew, the way he sort of, as Doris is walking into the church, he just spins on the spot, and you get the dong dong of the double piano keystroke, and then he confirms he was a minister as well, which immediately made me think, okay, so I wonder if this role was going to be Noah originally, because I know we talked previously about how in season 1 she said her husband was a minister, and then you think in season 2 they kind of changed their minds a bit and went, oh, Noah's actually going to be her brother, but then we return to her husband being a minister and it being these guys in season 3. So whether that's a kind of plot that has been rewritten.
I think that this whole idea of the unknown and the infinity symbol and the two worlds is the new idea that they came up with. So I don't necessarily think Noah was going to be this guy. I think it was going to be a different story. I do think that Noah was originally going to be Agnes's partner. So I think that they put this line in just to be like, see, it all does work. It is kind of like retroactively explaining things, which is okay. Yeah. You need a bit of that in a show like this to make sure all the knots are tied up.
Yeah.
But that's what I take that as.
I think it makes sense either way. It was just it was interesting to me because, like, as I was seeing this, I was trying to see if Noah could like have slotted into this role and done the same kind of thing. If you take away the Ellie and Charlotte stuff from Noah's character, there's no real reason why he couldn't have occupied this same role. Yeah. But yeah, this is just a great scene, really really cool, a tense scene between these 4 characters, or 2 characters, I guess. And as she's walking out, you might have to help me on this, because I immediately went, I'm sure they've been on there before, but I immediately went to look up the numbers on the board in the church that are presumably Bible verses and
Psalms, I think.
Are they Psalms?
And maybe even I couldn't hymns. Find Sometimes their hymns are in a hymn book. Yeah. Yeah,
I was looking for them to try and see what they were, and I didn't have any luck. But yeah, I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole on that for a little while.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something. Maybe there's something there. But what I wanted to mention this, we've had plenty of opportunities to mention this, but I've never really have mentioned it before. But the dynamic of these 3 characters, well, the one character in 3, it's really cool because it's very much like the middle one's doing all the talking, and the older one is like sort of watching the words that he once said, and the younger one is learning the words that he needs to say one day. It's really cool dynamic. It's there in every scene.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting observation, and it totally, because it's so consistent in that the middle one is usually the one who is undertaking. I think
in Burnt's house is in the 86 is the only time really that the young one spoke, I believe.
Yeah. And in this scene where he in this episode where he later threatens the Vindham politician with a gun, that's pretty much the only time he's actually done any kind of dirty work, which does certainly, for the most part, that does line up with your theory that he's kind of learning what he will need to do, and the middle one is the one
he needed at least one point, like when he needed to learn, like get involved actively at one point to really show that he will turn into this guy. Having said that, as I sort of settle with the show more and more and more, I it's interesting, the whole conversation, which we'll get into, I'm sure, when we go through your theories and at the very end and we sort of do some questions about the show, we'll get into this really heavily. But the whole idea of like this being 3 stages of this one character's life, and the idea whether is it 1 or 3, I love that idea. Do you know what I mean? So we'll get into that more as well. But okay, so next up we get the Yana and Tronta scene. Like we've said most of what we were going to say about this, I think. Is there anything in particular you want to say about this scene where he gives her the Ouroboros bracelet?
Well, he's got a lovely suede jacket for a start.
Wow. Yeah.
Lovely jacket. I haven't mentioned that before. Have we seen that bracelet before? Because I was trying to rack my brains. Obviously, we saw it earlier in the episode.
It will ring a bell because Yana was holding it earlier in this season. Whenever she was thinking about Tronta after the Mads memorial.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm recalling it from.
It's the where you're probably ringing a bell even more is it's not this bracelet, but in the caves, the Ouroboros
the Ariadne
ring
string
is on the string. Yeah, that's probably where it's in your mind from.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if we'd explicitly seen this bracelet or not before, because it was ringing a bell. But I think you might be right. It's probably the
the symbolism of this bracelet in this episode is just absolutely fantastic, because in this episode we learn, and like later on the character Noah, who we assume is Alt Noah, obviously, he explains the idea of like it's a whole process now. We have like Jonas, the unknown, Tronta, Ulrich, Mikkel, Jonas. It is the snake eating its own tail, and that's fantastic in this episode where they're sort of bringing that bracelet into the spotlight.
Yeah, I mean the way they are. So to be honest, where this bracelet ends up in this episode, so with Yana, I don't know if I fully grasp the significance of her having it, or whether it's just a question of someone having it so that we have the visual metaphor of this is what it looks like. And as you said, the fact that they've managed to realise something so complex while also keeping all the character drama going is frankly ridiculous. Like, it's not really until you take a step back from it and be like, God, all of this stuff has just played into this one massive cycle that they've managed to keep kind of contiguous and making sense for 2.5 seasons now without really making any mistakes. It's pretty astounding, to be honest.
It's really good. Like, let's just be honest, this is an amazing show.
Yeah. I was just gonna point out one thing as well. It's probably nothing, but Tronta, this might be going back to what you were saying about him being like an old soul, but his use of words to describe the area around the lake, where he calls it desolate, is sort of like, it's a really weird choice of words. I don't know what, maybe that's a translation
thing. Not enough Bush, I think.
Yeah, he is a fan of Bush, as we know. But it's just like when I look at something, beautiful, which is what Tronta's saying, he likes going there because it's so quiet and peaceful, and then he describes it as desolate, and it's like, it will be. Give it 66 years, and it'll be pretty desolate.
Yeah, that was interesting actually. I was watching it with the dub today, so I didn't really pick up as much of that. The guys, I'm still looking.
Did he say desolate in the dub?
I can't remember what he said, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
But I am still watching the dub to try and pick up on things. So we'll see. We'll see if I have anything today. Okay.
Oh.
So last week, Konrad got accused of being a misogynist. Whereas I think we get one of the most misogynistic moments of this whole show right here.
Christ.
Hannah says to Egon, "I'm pregnant," and Egon's response is, "I thought you were being careful."
Well, it's worse than that. Like, I mean, so first off, I think Hannah turns up wearing red, and I love this series' commitment to putting the characters, the female characters it's portraying as promiscuous in these bright colours in the 50s. It's this real commitment to kind of the film noir trope of this woman is promiscuous and is kind of being perceived as sinful by the society around her, and this is how we're going to mark her out, because she wears kind of gregarious clothing and she's more about having fun than she is about, the seriousness of real life. But yeah, Egon does not handle this well at all. So he says, first, I thought you were being careful, which I don't know what that is supposed to mean. I assume they probably had like the morning after pill in the 50s, maybe.
It's basically just shifting the blame fully to her, like as if contraception is just the woman's problem.
Yeah, but then he says, "Are you sure it's mine?" Which is like, oh boy, you are digging yourself a hole there, Egon.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like Hannah is not always the best character, or well, she's a very good character. She's not always the most positive character, but here he gets he gets both barrels of Hannah's more venomous side, and he completely deserves it. It's good that she gave him a dressing down, because it's sort of like, yeah, it's not in character, or it is in character for Egon to do this, but it's a sign that he has been wearied by his marriage falling apart. I think that he's even thinking of saying things like this.
Yeah, exactly. And for the person who's about to comment and to explain why Egon isn't a misogynist, let us have this one, right? We don't have to argue. Anytime we say something against a man, we don't have to go straight to the comments. Okay, all right. I've said that. So I will actually say, though, there might be a bigger misogynist in this show. This is a misogynistic moment. I'm not calling him a misogynist, but Daniel Kahnwald seems to be up there. Like Daniel,
we very rarely see him do anything, but he's sort of like, his influence is on everything bad that happens with women in this show.
He's got a guy.
Yeah, he's got a guy.
An abortion
Don't worry
guy.
about that.
Yeah, he's like, I'll ask Daniel. He's got a guy. Like, if you've got an abortion guy, something's not right.
I like the idea that he gave it to Egon without even being prompted. Like, as soon as Egon hinted that he might be seeing another woman, he was like, wait 1 second, let me just get you my phone number, just to keep you covered in case anything happens.
Yeah,
and they probably gave him the St. Christopher necklace as well. Like, give her that, she'll love it.
Yeah, and there is some sort of parallel that can be drawn, I suppose, or some interesting point of analysis, which I'm not going to get really into now, between the idea that Daniel Kahnwald has an abortion guy, meaning that he probably had a lot of abortions, and then the parallel between that and the fact that Enos had a child that died just after it was born, and therefore she always wanted a child. It's really interesting that they are father and daughter, you know?
Yeah, and it's I imagine we're not going to see that much of that dynamic given where we are in the show now, but I don't understand like how Enos has her problems, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
She's grown up to think that she can just drug boys and keep them in her house to stop them from leaving, but she seems like an okay person apart from that, whereas Daniel Kahnwald just seems awful. So I don't understand how Enos ended up the way she did, given what we know about him.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of the Enos and the Mikkel thing, like, let's be honest, I said this in Dark Discussions a week or two ago, you have to blame the social worker. Like, if you're going to take give a child to someone, you need to go to the house, you need to check the cupboards, you need to see, are there any sleeping pills about? Like,
Yeah.
you need to do these checks. You don't just give a kid to someone because they say, I've always wanted a kid.
Yeah, no, like, see you later.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like, every time they turn up to like check in on him, it's like, oh, he's asleep. It's like, he's been asleep the last dozen times I've been here. Wake him up. I need to talk to Mikkel.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so then we get a scene between Middle Burnt and young Claudia.
I love the shot of Claudia surrounded by the promotional material for the nuclear plant with the Atomenergie und Frieden, or Frieden it would be, because it's IE Frieden slogan, because it's even it's sort of it's a nice shot, like it looks nice compositionally, but it works metaphorically as well, because it's sort of, even at this early stage, she is literally surrounded by and engulfed by the nuclear plant and everything that it will come to represent in Vinden. It's sort of closing in around her.
That's cool.
And the that slogan, which it gives you in English a little bit later, but I think it's nuclear power and peace and quiet, or nuclear power and peace, I think is what Frieden is translated as in this instance, is this really interesting encapsulation of this like overly optimistic view that everyone has in the 50s about the future. They're all sort of like, oh, this is all going to be really cool, and it's just not at all.
Yeah, and I also like the sort of ego on Burnt as well, like the idea that the family on the poster is his family.
Yeah, yeah, they're looking a lot happier than they do in real life as well.
Yeah, like it's like the idealistic future, which actually we all know didn't come to pass whenever the power plant came into being.
I love the irony of like this poster showing this nuclear family of him, Greta, and Helga, when I don't actually think we've seen those three characters in a room together at any point in this show.
That's in. We might have once in the corridor in season 1, but yeah, even if I'm stretching to find a time, yeah,
Yeah, like they like calling them a family of any type seems like a stretch at this point.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so actually, just to add to that, we also know that Helga isn't burnt because that's what Greta was saying. He was like, remember he was conceived in sin. So then basically we get the scene which we were talking about earlier with the unknown Gary getting the fella to sign the documents so the nuclear power plant can get. So what did you think about this? Because I've got a few things to say about this in a minute, but what do you think?
I mean, like, tonally, it was odd because it sort of turned into like a CSI episode or something. Like, it felt like a bit like a crime thriller for this episode where they were like shaking down a politician to get him to sign the permits or whatever for the nuclear plant. So that was interesting, or caught me off guard, I guess. I also love the kind of irony in this scene of they are shaking down a politician to get the nuclear plant built so they can go forward 33 years in time and cause like a really serious accident. That's it, which is giving with one hand and taking with the other.
That's what I wanted to mention, is that this moment here, for me, takes a lot of options off the table for the show. Because the fact of the matter is, time travel exists, right? So they were able to do this. But if they didn't do this, time travel wouldn't exist, because you need the dark matter, you need the God particle. So this moment where it shows that the only reason the nuclear power plant came into being is because of these characters. That really, when I was watching it for the first time, I was really expecting it to end with going and changing something or whatever. And I'm not saying that won't happen, but I'm just saying at this point, I was like, well, how the hell are they going to do that now? Because like literally, time travel can only exist if time travel already existed. Like, so at this point, I was so confused that I had no idea where they were going. So what do you think in terms of that?
Well, I mean, it seems like it's just another in a long line of kind of bootstrap paradoxy kind of things. Like they have to, these events have to have happened in order for them to happen.
Yeah, but my question is, if that's the case, like this is a different sort of bootstrap paradox, because it literally involves the invention of time travel. So how, if they keep talking about breaking the cycle, or at the end of this episode, like Adam even says we need to destroy the origin or whatever. Like how is that going to change? Like at this point when I was watching, I was like, what is going to happen here? Because
I mean, we will get there later. I know exactly what you mean. I'm trying to figure out, there has to be, it all shows like I mean, we kind of know the stakes, like the universe is like at stake now, basically. So I feel like there's got to be kind of like a ticking clock put in play at some point that someone has to try and circumvent. I know that's kind of like a sort of almost like a cheesy and really sort of standard genre trope of thrillers, and this show hasn't really used them thus far. Although I guess it did a little bit with the Clausen stuff at the power plant at the end of season 2. But I feel like the ticking clock is probably going to be Alt Marta racing to abort the children or the babies that she's pregnant with at the moment, because I guess if she gets that abortion, that will potentially destroy everything, because everyone will stop existing at that point.
And also the existence of this second world does sort of bring other equations in, because the fact of the matter is, these characters who are doing this seem to, like, they're kind of from both worlds, but they seem to have grown up in the other world with Eva. So the fact that they've come from another world to this world to do this actually does open you back up in terms of things changing, because if you have influence from other worlds, then it's not really written in stone what happens, I suppose. But it still was very confusing for me at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's still confusing for me, to be honest. I just basically, anytime there's a moment where it's like, how can this be happening this way, because it has to have always happened this way in order to happen this way, I just have to be like, yeah, okay, that's fine, you win this round, Dark. I'm just like, I'm not going to question it.
Yeah, exactly. Right, okay, so next one we get this is the moment where Alt Marta runs out of the bunker.
Yeah.
Goes up the dune, and then we get the little bit of stranger Alt Marta saying, you can have her if you want, Jonas.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Yeah, so I mean, this is really the scene where I was like, I don't think Alt Marta or Stranger Marta is telling the whole truth here. I think this is another in a long line of characters who are manipulating either Jonas or Marta to get them to do what they want them to do, so that character can be in the position they currently are. I think we're spoiled for choice with characters who are behaving in that way in this show now, and Stranger himself has done it. So it's not that surprising that Stranger Marta is also doing it. I think that the thing that really struck me actually about this scene was that I wonder where they filmed this, because they've got like the cave entrance. It looks pretty much spot on. So this is either a set, and it's a really good one if it is, or they somehow found a very similar cave and then dressed it up to look pretty much identical to the one that they've used for the rest of the show.
I think but I know actually, I know what you mean, but I think the cave itself, like the original cave, I think it is a set.
Oh, okay.
But no,
I
I think
didn't know that.
they did make, they made like a faux cave in the forest, but I think they've also got a cave set as well.
Okay.
So I think
Maybe it is a set.
I think it's a set. Yeah.
It's a very good one if it is.
Yeah. No, but they made a on location cave entrance too, I believe. But I have definitely seen pictures of like a cave with blue screen around it on a set as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so Agnes in this episode, I'm not going to say anything. What's your take of her very small but seemingly important moments in this episode?
Well, I mean, the big question is obviously where's she going? She gets given the newspaper and told that she has to give it to Claudia. So Smart Money's on 2019. 2019? 2020? No.
2020, yeah.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, to go and find Claudia, assuming Claudia is still in 2020. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's where she's turning up. I am still of the opinion that she wasn't actually betraying Claudia when she gave that newspaper clipping to Noah, and she still is kind of playing the long game with old Claudia, as I think Tronta is as well. I think those two are aware of what they need to do to try and fix things, and they are carrying out older Claudia's wishes now that she's dead. So I'll be really interested to see where this leads with middle Claudia, whether these two being Agnes and Tronta, these two end up kind of guiding middle Claudia to what they need her to do.
Okay, very interesting. All right. Then the scene where Claudia comes up, takes Tronta's hand, and says, "Well, we're going home now."
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. So we actually, I didn't think to mention it, but in the scene with Burnt and Claudia, Burnt says something to the effect of, "Take what you want, don't worry about other people," or something like that. And then we see Claudia immediately putting that advice into action by being like, "Oh, I don't like the fact that Jana is getting close to my boyfriend, or this boy I like. I don't actually know if it's implied they're together at this point."
Well, there's no Facebook in those days, so you can't make it official.
Yeah, they're just showing
it's not official
genitals
till marriage.
to each other.
It's not official
That's
till
true.
marriage. Yeah.
It's not official till you show your penis to a gal in the woods. That was the way things were done.
That was the old way, yeah.
Yeah, we're in the old country, yeah. Yeah, but so she comes in, takes him away, and says, "Go away, Jana. We're off home," and wanders off with him. Although we do actually get a nice little moment here where Tronta's origin is kind of elaborated on a little bit, talking about how obviously his dad is the unknown, who probably weren't the best father. Let's be honest. Like if we're, I don't know, I haven't seen them parent, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I don't think they were a particularly attentive parent, to be honest. But then he was stuck in care homes and he's got all those cigar burns all over his arms. And we've talked, and it will come back again actually in this episode, or you've talked specifically about these characters who are able to kind of break the cycle of abuse. Mm-hmm. And Tronta's a really interesting case in that, because he does actually seem, for all the kind of bad stuff he gets into in terms of hiding bodies and murdering Regina and stuff like that, he does actually seem to have, to some extent, managed to carve out a relatively normal life for himself for most of his life, despite the nightmarish upbringing that he went through.
Oh yeah, in terms of the actual physical abuse, he definitely was able to avoid doing that. As far as I'm aware, like Mad, we don't really know Mad's story, but we know Ulrich.
Yeah.
We know Ulrich. There's never been any instance of him being abused by Tronta, so he didn't really do that. But when I referenced Tronta in that regard, I was talking about like sort of the adulterous cycle as well within there.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely he doesn't. I don't think he's a physical abuser of his children. But
yeah.
Well, actually, at the same time, like the unknown, we have no confirmation that the unknown is a physical abuser, but he was abused through the care homes and things and through the orphanages. But let's be honest, the unknown seems like the guy too.
Well, his parents weren't particularly attentive. Like his mum had a habit of just disappearing off to different timelines for what looks like years at a time, and his dad was a murderous trio of kind of time paradox people. So
yeah, Tronta is a character.
It's not a great.
Tronta is a character who gets a lot of sympathy from us as well, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one we get the scene where Hannah leaves Ulrich, and basically she's going to go to get an abortion.
Yep. Yeah, and she is it this scene, or it might be later in the episode where she actually takes the time machine with her? There's an episode
she does take it with her. This is the last time she's with Egon. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a scene, and I believe it's this one, where she picks up the briefcase with the time machine in it, which to me implies that whatever she's doing, she's not coming back here. I wonder if Hannah's character will develop at all, because as you say, she hasn't really grown from what we've seen of her throughout this series, but she keeps on failing to find her place. She makes the same mistakes over and over again, and then has to live with the consequences of them or run away. And so far, every time she's run away.
Yeah, she has. Okay, so back into the cave. Marta stops and looks around for a bit, but the main point here is that we have the line being drawn down to the infinity symbol for the first time. So you sort of straight away knowing, there's going to be something going on here. And we also get Noah coming out as well.
Ah, shit. Mark Vashke's back, and he's wearing cool desert camo stuff. Yeah, I was so happy to see him again. Just to, get that gravelly voice once again in the series. It's lovely to see. I feel like they kept us waiting for that. They knew the fans wanted it, and they're like, we're going to keep you waiting until halfway through the season before you get Alt Noah.
And Konrad, we're gonna spoil the viewers now because we got so much stuff because of the question and answers in this video at the end. I'm gonna put it now. Let's do a quick what the dub.
Oh yeah, okay, let's do it.
What the dub?
So the what the dub, very, very quickly, I didn't want to devote a whole segment at the end, but I wanted to include the jingle, is basically we haven't seen Mark Vashke the whole season. And he's one of the fan favorite characters and actors in the show, and his voice is so amazing. And I've done a whole what the dub before on the English speaking actor that plays the dub, right? But it's all built up. It's built up so much, and we're finally back. And then the drone, and he goes, "Hey, how are you?" Or whatever he says, but he's got that voice, and it's just like, it was such a letdown. Honestly,
Mark Vashke is one of the best voiced actors in this, and best performed as well, but best voiced characters in this entire show. But the fact that they ballsed it up so badly with the casting of the dubbing is borderline criminal, I think.
Yeah, it's just absolute. I thought to myself, he hasn't been in the season so far. Just cast a different person. I don't care about the continuity.
We won't remember.
I don't care about the continuity. Now, the really sad thing is I've heard from before that sometimes dub actors stick with the same foreign actor. Say Jonas's dub actor might do the same, Lewis Hoffman and everything. Okay. Can you imagine if this is the guy that Mark Vashke got?
I'd say I wonder. I know some people who watched the dub of this. I think my parents actually might be watching the dub of it, and I should catch up with them and see how they feel about Noah as a character. Because I just feel like the way you've described that voice actor, Mark Vashke's voice is so central to how great a character he is. It's this bassy kind of threatening, somber voice, and if he lost that, it'd still be a strong performance, but. I just think my opinion of Noah would be changed forever if I had to subject myself to this voice acting that you're describing.
It's honestly terrible. It is honestly one of the worst bits of casting I've ever seen in my life.
Hello, friends. Are you tired of spending hours scrolling through YouTube and podcasting apps looking for something containing two straight white men discussing movies? No luck finding anything? Frustrating, isn't it? Well, look no further. We're proud to introduce to you the best movie podcast ever. The only movie podcast of its type, presenting objective, rational, and, most importantly, fun dialogue around the movies we know and love. Movies such as Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's Tenet, literally anything Denis Villeneuve has ever made, Luis Buñuel's surrealist masterpiece Un Chien Andalou, Christopher Nolan's The Prestige, and many more. But the fun doesn't stop there. We aim to offer deep, complex analysis. By joining us every Thursday, you'll be able to experience conversations involving pointing out plot holes, tentatively avoiding discussion about the casting of minority actors, Harry Potter, fact or fiction, what's up with Tom Cruise, and many more. Subscribe now and don't miss an episode, every Thursday beginning on Christmas Eve 2020. You'd be crazy to miss it.
All right, so next up, Doris says bye-bye to Egon. They're getting a divorce.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit two-faced of her, if I'm honest with you. And I think she, like, obviously, he is cheating, so...
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was just like, just tell him you cheated too. Like, you're condemning this man to a lifetime of, like, alcoholism over losing you. He at least deserves to know that you did it to him as well.
I see. I mean, I do agree. Taken out of the context of this scene, I would totally agree with you. I think Egon does deserve to know it as well. I didn't get the sense that this scene was kind of picking a side. Yeah. I mean, for me, the slow zoom on this kind of still conversation of this marriage falling apart is very, very reminiscent in a way of the Katerina and Ulrich scene from season 1 but it kind of brings us into, literally brings us into the very real kind of heartbreak of these two people who probably did love each other at one point, almost certainly, they loved each other, and they're forced to forever separate because of the interventions of others. And I see what you mean. I think because we like Egon as a character, we probably want him to get some kind of, him to know at least why the marriage is falling apart and that it's not all his fault. But I think it's more just that these people are being pulled apart for by forces beyond their control. Agnes, as much as Doris was willing to do it, Agnes did deliberately come and seduce Doris, and Hannah kind of the same as well. Like, Hannah seemed to have an idea in her head of what she wanted to do from the moment she saw Egon. I
know Agnes and Doris are very are both women. But, I will bring up an old saying of mine, and my wife laughs at this every time I say it, but in terms of cheating, it's really easy not to put your dick in something.
Yeah, that is true.
Do you know what I mean? It's really easy not to put your dick in something, and that goes for Agnes and Doris too. I don't think that there's an excuse for cheating just because one of the parties was trying to seduce you. I don't.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, just to be clear, but I think the point. No,
you don't think it's true. You're pro cheating.
Oh no, I'm gonna get cancelled again. I'm sorry. Pro. Adultery, Konrad. That's what they call me. But I think the point this is trying to make is just that people, like external forces, have involved themselves in this marriage, and it has been pulled apart as a result. And so neither of them are really at fault. It's just sad what it's depicting here. It's just a kind of heartbreaking scene. Presumably the last time we will see these characters together. Maybe the last time we'll ever see Doris, because she doesn't seem to be mentioned that much after this point in the story.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it's the sad end to this, because you'd imagine that if these characters, other characters who were influencing it, did exist, maybe they could have had a happy life together. And unfortunately, this is the way it went. So then we get introduced to a new character in the abortion waiting room.
Yes. Well,
Helen.
Yes, yeah. Well, sort of a new character. Oh wait, no. What's Katarina's mum called?
Helen.
Oh, it is Helen. Okay, I thought when you said a new character, I was like, wait.
Well,
I
a new
thought this was
version, a
that
new
didn't
actress, I should
yeah.
say. A new actress.
Okay, no, I'm with you. Yeah, so this is a really interesting scene actually. There's a lot in the 50s in this episode. In fact, pretty much all of it is in the 50s. But there's a huge amount of really good drama to be had, and a huge amount of like really powerful characterizations, particularly of characters like this in the 50s. Mm-hmm. So this scene is quite a brief and touching glimpse into talking about those cycles of abuse, the abuse in the Albers family, and the fact there really isn't that much here, and I wonder how much more of her we will see. But the fact that this kind of one short interaction with a kind stranger has enough of an impact on Helen that 33 years later she will name her child after this woman says a huge amount.
Years, but like 12 or whatever.
I guess it would be like 12 or 13 or whatever. But still, like the fact that she will name her child after this character says a huge amount about how terrible her life is at this point. And obviously, she's maybe a 12 or 13-year-old girl who's going to get an abortion, which is profoundly upsetting in and of itself. But yeah, it's another really really strong example in this episode of these young characters that don't really need to say anything explicitly. They kind of talk around the horrific circumstances in their past or in their current lives, and the context of what we know about them fills in the blanks.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm going to do something now which a lot of the viewers might not want me to do, but we are eventually going to, once as revelations come out that I can draw from that family tree, we'll start to talk about them a bit more. Now, in a few episodes' time, we'll be able to talk about most of it. But so don't go look at it yet, Konrad. But there's a particular part of the family tree that I want to have a look at here.
Okay.
In that, if on the family tree, it actually has Katarina on it, because obviously she's the mother of Mikkel, Magnus, and Marta, who are all on it. Now, so it has Katarina. Her maiden name is Albers, as we know.
Yeah.
It shows Katarina's parents on there too.
Okay.
And it has Helen Albers on there. But this is the really interesting part. Herman Albers is her father on that family tree.
Yeah.
Now, for me, right, my conclusion that I draw from that, and the multiple dark discussions about this, and people know, everyone who's listened to this podcast knows my stance on this already, but the fact that she's called Helen Albers here at 12 or 13 years old means that that's not her married name, which means Katarina, I believe, based on the family tree, is actually, without time travel involved, a true product of incest. Now, I know that means that it would have to be when, Helen was like 28 or whatever. She would have to get pregnant from her brother or her uncle or whoever it was. But I truly believe that's what the show's telling us, based on the fact that she is called Albers at this age.
Yeah, I mean, well, that would certainly be consistent with the hints this scene is dropping about her abusive home life.
Yeah.
She is not from a happy home. You don't send a 12-year-old girl to go and get a backstreet abortion on her own, and she. It is heartbreaking when you think about how little kindness this girl must have seen in her life, that Hannah, or Katarina as she believes her to be called, is someone that she will remember over a decade from now when she is naming a child. And I could totally believe that she is a product, or that actual Katarina is a product of incest, because that tends to come with abusive relationships,
Yeah, and even if metagaming the series too, it makes sense with all this time travel incest happening that they would want to highlight a real case of incest too. And sort of have that as a real thematic, it's real drama. It's a really deep character point that I genuinely believe that.
I think that's a really interesting point, and I think it's important in a way that they do something like that, because you can kind of, it's not played for laughs, but you can almost kind of hand wave the incest between Jonas and Marta, because it's kind of obscured a little bit by the time travel stuff, and the ethics of it are lost in that. And I think it's very... I'm really impressed that they have grounded the show in just a little snapshot of what a real incestuous relationship tends to look like, which is the reality of them statistically is that they do go hand in hand with abuse almost all the time.
I mean, there's always one kid in a school who you joke that his parents are cousins, but that's just a joke.
Yeah. But this is just to sort of say one final thing about Helena Albers here. This is another great example in Dark of them presenting a character in, it was 2 episodes ago where we saw her kind of slapping Katerina around the back of the head in the 80s, taking a character and being like, oh, look at what a bastard this character is, and then pulling the camera back and saying, here's why they're a bastard. And then it's like, oh, you've done it again, Dark. like, you've made me sympathize with someone I didn't like, and it's so good at doing it.
Yeah, and I'll just I can say this as well now, because at this point in the show, there's not really, you're not really going to find that any other way, so I may as well just tell you, because it is a cool little bit of trivia. I don't even know how we know this. Someone in the comments tell me how we know this. I know it's on the Dark Wiki, but I don't know where we found it out in the show. There must have been something in the show that told us, because otherwise why would it be on the Dark Wiki? We've actually met Herman Albers.
Really?
Herman Albers is the farmer from the first season with the dead sheep.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Katerina's father. And he was also at Mad's memorial as well this season.
That's interesting.
I don't know how we know that's his name, but we know that's his name.
It's probably just in the credits, right? Like,
you're right. It's probably they're probably just hiding that in the credits. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's just that's who it is, and that's another relationship where it's sort of like I doubt we're gonna get that much more on that relationship because there's only so many hours of television left.
Well, as I say, I wouldn't be telling that if I like you that's something that I know you weren't gonna theorize about. So
Herman Albers turns out to be the origin. Yeah. So it's all
yeah. Exactly. No, he was a tool in Egon's journey down to Satanism.
Yeah. And in many ways, that's the most important thematic discussion in the whole of Dark, really.
Oh, yeah.
We've got to get rid of those Satanists.
Yeah.
They're ruining our children.
Eventually we'll meet them. Eventually. There's a cabal of Satanists underneath this whole thing.
Yep. Yasin's involved.
Oh, it has to be. Look at those eyes. But, okay, so then we see the beginning of what Ulrich had warned us about in previous seasons. Egon is starting to drink.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a sharp... We've seen little dark moments from Egon's character throughout this episode that are... Okay, there you go. That are sort of a bit out of character for him, that show, there's an edge to him that wasn't there previously. And here we have... his descent into alcoholism. That we know he'll... Was he still drinking when he died? I don't know if it was really said one way or another. He seemed like he was doing better.
Was he sipping on a whiskey or something whenever he was listening to Creator? I don't know.
Yeah, little Irish coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know actually. I don't
think we did see him drink when he was an older man. Oh no, we did.
I think
he was sitting behind the police desk drinking. Remember?
Well, yeah. So when we see him as like in season 1 when he's still a police officer, he is definitely still struggling with alcoholism. I wonder whether there is a sort of implication that maybe as his relationship with Claudia started to improve, his drinking lessened in season 2, that's kind of me just guessing.
that only improved in like 36 hours. It only improved in a very short amount of time. So
yeah, he had a really good week at the end.
It might have just been that he didn't get to the shop those couple of days to get some alcohol.
But it is heartbreaking. It is really heartbreaking for Egon's character, like to see someone so good brought so low by powers outside of their control is awful.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so Burnt, this is no point even mentioning this, but why not?
Oh,
we're completionists here. Literally picks up the permit and says, "Hey, I've got a permit."
I don't. This episode was an hour. I enjoyed this episode. I'll preface this by saying that.
Oh, you texted me and said it was bloody brilliant.
Yeah, it was a really good episode, but it was an hour and 4 minutes long, and I don't understand why this scene was in the episode. Like, we didn't need, we saw them get the permit. Like, I assume that Burnt is going to receive it. I don't need to see, they're going to show him posting it back to the council offices once he's countersigned it as well. Just
no, I think it's probably like the actor. They were like, right, we need you to come in and do the scene with young Claudia. You're going to be a bit of a perv in it, but, that'll be okay. That's the scene. He's like, is that the only scene I've got? It's like, yeah. Well, I don't want to just come and do one scene where I'm a perv.
Yeah.
We'll add another one in.
Yeah. How do you feel about picking up a folder?
yeah. That's going to get you.
I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, exactly.
It was such a pointless scene, this. I don't know why it was in.
Yeah, well, actually, it's something that Dark doesn't do very often. Like, Dark very often they assume that the audience is following along to a certain level.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this regard, they just decided that actually, you know what, we'll just make sure they know.
Yeah.
I wasn't against it, but at the same time, there was no need for it.
When your runtime is an hour and 4 minutes, you can trim some of that fat, and this was like this is one of the rare bits of fat in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then we get Adam with the book, and we see that he has the picture of the trio, and then he starts chatting to Marta. And sort of is building up the idea that he's gonna tell her basically that she has the origin in her womb.
Yeah, and we talk about mirroring all the time, sort of structurally or visually in Dark, or narratively for that matter. And here we get the scene in 2053 and the scene in Alt 2019 perfectly mirroring each other. So him talking about and it is the beginning is the ending is the beginning. We have Adam telling Alt Marta how the beginning will occur and what she needs to do to stop it from happening, or what he thinks she needs to do to stop it from happening. And while that is happening, we have Jonas and a younger Alt Marta getting it on.
Yep. Yeah, so they do. And then
I could not I just want to briefly say I could not get over how dirty Jonas's thumbnail was when he had it on Marta's face. It's like, for the love of God, wash your hands, young man.
Yeah, actually, that's worth being said. When they actually do when they eventually get around to having the coitus, it actually is quite rough and ready compared to the other scenes that they've had. Yeah. Very loving, very sort of like candle lit scenes before, where this one was very.
It's like the cutaways in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when it cuts to Frank having sex with like a prostitute occasionally, and like someone will say something and it just goes back to a wide shot with him just like like, that's what I wanted from this. It wasn't quite that, but it was closer to it than we've seen before.
Yeah. And we see the author of the book.
Yes,
Dear Diary,
signing off. So yeah, I didn't see that coming, to be honest, that they would be the ones who write it. It makes perfect sense that they would be, but I did not see it coming. And
who taught them to write?
Yeah, I mean, there's a load of books in the Eric Lux. Eric Lux? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
I always forget their name. It's not as good as Sigmunder's. Plenty of books there, so they could probably teach themselves to write. Yeah. In fact, that's a bootstrap paradox. The oldest one knows how to write, so he just it's always his responsibility to teach the other two. The sign off of "I am left to die alone. I am my sole judge." Me feels like a kind of final confession, knowing that Marta will perhaps attempt to lose the baby and therefore break everything. I think that to me feels like the natural way that everything is potentially going to blow up. That's like the end game for a lot of the characters here, is like everything's going to happen the way it is. Marta will try to abort the baby to stop all this from happening, and everyone will die as a result. So I guess the question then becomes, who's trying to stop her from doing that, or who's trying to alter things so that's not what happens.
The thing is, though, as well, is that there's been a few comments that have really tried to ask you this question, and there's no, because you haven't seen the whole show, there's no way you can give us a satisfying answer, but I'm going to ask it again anyway, okay?
Okay.
What's your explanation as to how on earth can that happen if Alt Marta has already grown to be Eva? Like, how can she then go and get an abortion, which causes this whole thing to blow up? Like, there has to be some way that can happen. And obviously you haven't seen the show, so you're not going to have a satisfying answer for us for that. But it is something that I want to keep posing to you, because it is something that you need to think about, to be honest with you.
Well, so I mean, I'm not a physicist. I'm going to preface this by saying that, just in case anyone wasn't aware of that up until this point. But my understanding of kind of theories of time travel is that there are two, basically. There's one where you can alter your own past. You can alter your own sort of future by going to your past and changing something. So, if I went back to, I was born in 1987. So if I went back to, I don't know, 1995 and said, you're going to play football every day for the rest of your life, I'd go back to 2020 and I would be a professional footballer or something like that. That's one of the schools of it, of time travel. The other is that no matter what you do to your past, your past has actually already happened for your present. So it doesn't matter what you change there. And I think that to me is the logic that Dark is employing here. So Marta can abort the baby and it will break things going forward, but it's not going to change Eva's past and Stranger Marta's past because those have already happened. So there is no way for her actions to actually influence the past. All they can do is influence the future. And I think Dark does itself say that when it talks about, there's a scene between Stranger and Katerina, I think in season 2, where Stranger's trying to talk her out of going back to try and send Mikkel back to the present, and Stranger says, you can't do that because I've already had my past. It's not going to fix it. It's not going to fix everything. Like, sending Mikkel back to the future won't erase me from existence because time will find a way to kind of fix that. I think was the implication of what Stranger was saying. But either way, it's not going to erase Stranger from the existence by doing that. And I think it's the same thing here. So basically, you can't change your past, is what I think Dark is. What the logic
you're
that Dark is
insinuating that you
employing here.
can change your future.
Yes. Yeah. So just because Eva had the unknown and Stranger Marta had the unknown doesn't mean that young old Marta needs to have the unknown. Like, she can change it.
That could make sense in the show, and if they do that, there is a way to make that make sense in terms of the idea that every time you're sort of moving on with a character's life, the whole thing is like moving. Like, so there's like the idea of there being 1986, for example. Let's choose a random year. In my mind, when I was watching it, there was one 1986. Like, there was one version of it. It happened the same every time. Like, it's still a linear timeline, but all the people are traveling around it. So, like, if there's only 186 or 2020 or like one point in these line, then in my mind, there was like no way that they could change anything. And I've said before, when I was watching it, I was like, it's going to just end with the cycle completing. Because in my mind, there was like, there's no way. I trusted the writers more, to be honest with you. Because I think the way what you're explaining, it makes sense in a filmmaking time travel sort of way. It does.
Yeah.
It's consistent with so much other time travel shows. For me, I was like, yeah, but if they do that, they're opening themselves up for plot holes. Because
I mean, they are. Yeah, that's true.
100%. Because as soon as you say, yeah, well, I know Eva exists, but I'm gonna change what I'm doing because she still exists. It's gonna open up plot holes. And when I was watching the show, I was like, I have too much faith in these writers. I don't think they're just gonna say, well, this happens because it happens. I thought that, like, it was all gonna be sort of very contained. But I will say, in my mind, when you're saying that she's gonna go and get an abortion, the thing is though, if Eva didn't do that, right, it wouldn't be going to get the abortion and getting the abortion that would break the cycle. It would be literally the first step that she takes different to Eva. Like,
well,
because as soon as she alters her path at all, that's going to change everything.
Well, I don't think it will change everything, though, because, I mean, we've seen between the alternate worlds that there is a certain amount of variance that whatever kind of unseen guiding hand pushes time in a certain direction is prepared to deal with. So Ulrich didn't marry or didn't get with Hannah in the real world, but he got with Hannah in the alt world, and Mikkel didn't go missing in the alt world. So there are variances within the timeline that don't completely screw up everything.
But you're saying, then that you're developing your own theory now, because you're saying that the variances only happen in separate worlds. So what you're saying is, if Marta does go and get the abortion, is that now a different world than the two we've seen?
Oh, well, no. What I mean is
Because,
that
yeah, like
because
that's-
we've seen it be different between the worlds. I think it's different between the cycles as well. But there is a degree of difference in each cycle that time, if you want to kind of consider it as that, time as a force of self-preservation can handle. So I don't know, maybe in one of the cycles, let's say Stranger's cycle, he, rather than getting hung, he got like, shot in the arm or something like that. Like I think something like that, or rather than getting shot in the leg, he got shot in the arm or something like that. I think time is this force that has a propensity to preserve itself and is resilient to those kind of minor changes. I think the big changes, like for instance Marta going and getting an abortion, if that is what happens, that's the kind of stuff that will break everything. But her literally taking one step different to Stranger Marta or Eva won't actually be that significant, because time itself can correct things to try and keep itself on the same track and maintain those cycles.
I think I get what you're saying. The only thing that I can't square in my head through your theory is that you would need to have, like, it would need to be creating a new world or something, because like 2019 happened the way 2019 happened, and if you change something, it's in order for that to happen, there would need to be two different 2019s, or two, like every moment in time needed to be multiplied twice. Like that's the interesting part of it to me that is not really matching up in my mind. But I say that as if the show isn't gonna do that. Let me tell you, where the show goes, we're gonna have to talk about it a lot as well. But
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, I'm entirely prepared to be completely wrong about this. That's just kind of the working theory I have in my head as to how things can be changed at all. Because otherwise, as you say, the natural conclusion for this, and I've had that exact same thought, is the cycle's just going to complete, and we're going to end with Jonas waking up in bed and the milk being off and the power being off and Hannah having sex with Ulrich, and it's just going to be like, oh, okay. Well, nice one, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Okay, yeah. So we'll talk about more about that as we go on. I'm sure. Like even like after we finish the whole series, we'll have a huge discussion about what a cycle is and all that sort of thing.
I'm not going to be any clearer on it then than I am now. That's my fear.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So next, we get the montage, and it is sort of punctuated throughout by Marta and Jonas engaging in a bit of old animalistic tendencies.
Hanky-panky.
Bit of hanky-panky. Yeah.
We've I've mentioned before that I think some of the songs in Dark are written for the show because of how perfectly they fit it.
Yeah.
I'm 90% certain this one was written for the show.
Well, it wasn't.
There's no way it wasn't. It mentions Ariadne and
Mazes.
Mazes. There's no way. I don't believe that for one moment.
It wasn't.
I don't believe it. There's no way.
No, it wasn't. So the cool thing about this song is, though, right? I've done a bit of research on this. The song, if you actually listen to the lyrics, it's about Theseus denying the red string. So it's about Theseus saying, I don't want the red string. And then the lyrics say, Ariadne, I'm coming, I need to whatever. And he says, and in the lyrics, he actually expresses the regret that I should have taken the string, right? So the artist who wrote this song wrote it about the Theseus and the Minotaur and the maze, but he didn't take the string, which I find so great. And it does seem like it was written for the show. It wasn't, because Jonas in this alternate world is in the labyrinth. He's in the middle of all of this, and he doesn't have a touchstone. He doesn't have a base. His Ariadne, Marta, is gone. So his Marta is gone, and so he's got no red string. He's completely lost at sea in this world, and the song just tells the story of him so perfectly, to be honest with you, that he's stuck in the maze. He doesn't know how to get out, and all he's doing is thinking of Marta, his Marta, his Ariadne. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And he's you can see him in this episode. He's kind of just reduced to trusting his moral compass and being like, "There's, when Alt Marta or when Stranger Marta says you have to pick a world to save." His response is just to be blindly like, no, there must be a way to fix this, and I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
But he is, as you say, he is completely blind. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He's kind of flying on faith and goodwill at the moment. But yeah, this is a great montage. That Labyrinth song, I'm stunned to hear that wasn't written for the show, because it like fits it so ridiculously perfectly. Who's writing songs about Theseus and Ariadne in like 2020?
I can't remember the artist's name right now, but
I've got it here. It's Asaf Avidan.
yeah,
I went and
Avidan,
listened to
yeah.
it
So
afterwards.
actually, Ema actually knew this artist. Ema knows a different song different song of his. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, it's great. Apart from that, we see Hannah heading off again. I think maybe it's in the montage where we see her walking off with the briefcase with the time machine in it. I
there's
wonder
also
if
the
she's
Claudia
gonna.
and Tronto moment as well, where she undresses.
Yeah.
And Egon,
Yes.
that thing is, like, you can imagine now, Egon's going to be drunk their whole rest of their adolescence, and, like, literally they're just going to be at it every night. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, why not? Like you've basically got a place to stay where your parents don't care anymore. I remember being super jealous of my friends who had situations like that growing up. Although in retrospect, it probably wasn't that great when you're like 13. It's a really cool montage. This I theorize that I think Hannah. I mean, obviously she's going to keep the baby.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually something that I was. I will come back to my first point in a second, but something I wasn't sure about after the scene with Helena Albers at the abortion clinic is why that conversation made her decide to keep the baby, because it certainly seems like she's keeping the baby now.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not sure why.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Maybe.
Just speaking to a child, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe just like seeing a young girl thinking, oh, maybe I will. I find it really interesting that I like 100% we didn't even mention like that Hannah would have clocked that that's Katarina's mom.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, and I will say as well, I forgot to mention it at the time, but people in like my comments before, whenever I've talked about the idea that she called her daughter Katarina because of meeting Katarina, like someone. I can't remember who it was. It was one of the big videos, which the theory videos got a lot of views. So I don't really know who it was. Probably wasn't even a subscriber to the channel. But they said something like, there's no way that talking to a woman at that age would mean that that's why she would call her child that. I'm sure she just liked the name later in life too. And I was like, have you seen a TV show before?
Yeah, like why would they have a line where she specifically says, "Oh, that's a nice name"?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they didn't write that by accident.
This isn't
it wasn't
real
just
life. Like,
yeah. Like, this is what you've encountered there is this concept called foreshadowing, like for something that's going to happen later on.
I don't. Sometimes you just read. I read a comment. Yeah. Like the thing is, the people who are subscribe to me and contribute, like you've seen the comments yourself. They're really well thought out, and they love the show just as much as we do. Sometimes I just look at a comment and I'm just like, what world are you living in? Like,
yeah. They just wrote down that she liked that name because she liked that name, and there's nothing more to read into that whatsoever.
Sometimes characters just like to say what their favorite color is. Like, it doesn't mean anything, you know?
Yeah. That would infuriate me. But no, our subscribers, and you right there, yes, you listener, are very intelligent and don't feel insulted by that. But yeah, so she's off anyway. I think she's going to try... I don't know if she's actually going to raise that baby, but I think she will have it. I think she's probably going to go further back in time. I think that the rest of this show is just going to be Hannah seducing a sequence of men in like the 20s and the 1880s until she finally finds one who will love her for who she is.
Yep, all right, fair enough. That'll be good fun.
Bartol's next.
Go
and hook up with Bartol's in 1888.
How would he not recognise her?
I mean, Bartol's is definitely... I'm not going to say what I was going to say then. Actually, I'm going to get in trouble if I say
as long as you have
but...
nice looking hair, that's all you need for Bartos.
Yeah.
But basically, last scene, we get the reveal with the lovely hands in the womb shape. We get the reveal that the unknown, or Gary, we come to know him as, the cleanup crew, he is the origin.
Yes.
So, what did you think about this reveal? He is Tronta's dad, which we sort of already knew, and he is the child of Jonas, and he links the worlds, basically. He links the worlds.
Yeah. So there's that. I have two thoughts on this, and I actually had two theories about it. So I had down that I thought Jonas and Alt Marta were going to have a baby as well. I still think that Jonas and his world Marta had a baby.
Gustav,
because of the Ariadne stuff. I don't really know how that's going to work, because obviously the timing of the pregnancy seems really, really tight on that. But they've mentioned his mother being so actually with the Gustav stuff, I thought maybe that would be Altmarta, because that was a lot kind of like she was time traveling and such. She must have been time traveling for him to end up where he was. So that's kind of put a pin in that, because obviously these guys are her child now. I still think the regular Marta thing, maybe she had a baby at some point.
Well, can I say something which might lead you down a rabbit hole completely? I just want to say this for fun. And I hope some of our listeners get a giggle out of it. At the end of season 2, whenever Marta is in the bunker when Stranger locked her in there, and stuff starts kicking off in the power plant, and underneath there, remember Jonas and Claudia were in the tunnel underneath at that time. Yeah. Well, whenever that all was going on, there was a brief shot of like white sparks or light in front of Marta in the bunker at that time.
Yeah, like I remember seeing that and being like, I think she's going to time travel, and then she didn't, and it was like, not sure about what's happening here. I'm standing by it. I'd like, there's something's going on with regular Marta. They're not mentioning that. Like, I mean, it could, just to be clear though, it could, the coalescing dark matter on the womb from the first sex scene they had together could just been a kind of projection of what would eventually happen with Altmarta. They've done stuff like that before.
Yeah, it's just a foreshadowing thing, possibly.
Yeah, and Altmarta sees the ghost of herself in the forest. So there is like this kind of intangible like energy that can reach across worlds, whatever you want to call it. Divine intervention or something like that. So I could be completely wrong, but so that's my first thought. Was I don't know how this Gustav Tannhaus stuff fits into what's going on here. We shall see. The other thing is, like, St. Christopher made a comeback in this episode again. Obviously, we saw the pendant get given to Hannah, and then she gives it to Helena. And that mythology still seems really core to all of this. So, obviously, to revisit it, it's about the mythology is that St. Christopher is the person who rejected the devil and carried the one who would create the world on his shoulders. And my theory a couple of episodes ago was that carried was a term for pregnancy, and I think looking at it in those terms, it seems like Marta has to be the St. Christopher here, because she is carrying the one who will create the world in the form of the unknown, the origin. But I do also think that maybe
or the oranges, as Trump would say.
Yeah. I do think though that this can be maybe like abstracted to be kind of like a figurative carrying, which is maybe what they initially meant it to mean, which is maybe someone is carrying they mean like guiding another individual to a solution that will unmake the loop and thus create a new world, in the way that Marta is carrying the one who will create this loop that is the bad world, I guess. And I wonder if that is the case, who that person could be. And I'm still waiting for Claudia to come back into this series in a big way, because she's been conspicuously absent for the last 4 episodes. She's barely been in this season at all.
Yeah.
And she seems like a pretty major character to me. So I don't know. I've got one eye on Claudia at the moment. Like, just thinking, what are you and Agnes and Tronta up to over there?
There's something going on.
Something's going on in 2020, guys. You're not fooling me. You're not. You've showed me nothing of that, and there's something up there, I think.
Interesting.
Oh, actually, I just had a thought. So, I wonder if old Claudia might come back. Actually, thinking about it,
she might have done stuff before she was shot.
Well, it could be that, but it could also be middle Claudia's in 2020. Mm-hmm. So if she just hangs out there for 33 years, then old Claudia could turn up in 2053.
Yeah, well, so we'll see the stuff that she did before eventually going and getting shot.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe she'll just turn. But talking about how your past is unchangeable, but your future is changeable.
Oh yeah.
Maybe she's doing different things. So maybe old Claudia's just going to turn up with an assault rifle and just blow Adam's head off and be like, "Suck it, bitch." Oh, that'd be a great ending.
And then he survives, and then he wears the bag of clover to hide the scar.
Yeah, even higher. Yeah. I want Claudia to just kick the door in, shoot everyone in the head, put on some sunglasses, and be like, "See you later, suckers," and then ride a motorbike into the sunset. That's my my pitch for the ending of Dark.
Well, I've got some good news for you. Right, let's get into the roundup.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, the IMDb rating this week is 9.1.
I think it should be higher than that. I think there was like Hannah and Egon and Doris were brilliant in this episode. There was some great character work there. There was really, really compelling reveals with like the origin and the unknown. The Tronta and Claudia stuff was good. It was like there wasn't literally the only bad scene in this entire episode was the 30 seconds of Burnt picking up the file and being like, oh, like so. I think it should be higher than that, but generally speaking, yeah, really strong episode.
Okay, awesome. Right, any more thoughts before we get into some segments? You've given most of your theories. Do you have a rundown of what theories you added to the Matrix today?
So, like the ones I've actually added to the Matrix aren't that many. It was only 2. So it was the CUC being Tronta's father. Oh, actually, one I didn't mention at all. When Agnes goes back in time, she shares a suspiciously tender embrace with the scarred face girl in 2053, which makes me think that maybe she is Agnes's daughter. I've put down daughter. If that's wrong, I feel like they're related to each other in some way. So we'll see how that one plays out.
Okay.
I should
make it more vague if you want. Well, everyone's related, so I don't know.
Yeah, see, this is the problem with this show, is like, if it was a normal television show, I'd look at that and be like, well, obviously she's her daughter because Agnes is 30 years older than her. But unfortunately, with the way Dark has gone now, it's like, I don't know what relation they could be. Like, she could be Agnes's grandmother. I don't know.
Yeah.
She could be Agnes herself in a different world. I don't know how this works. So
actually, she could be, because we didn't actually see Agnes at that age.
We haven't seen Agnes. Maybe she's Agnes.
Yeah.
I don't know
well,
what is going on.
Scar, though.
Not in the real world.
Oh,
but in the old world,
actually,
we don't know.
So it could be alternate Agnes at that age.
Oh, Agnes, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? I feel like they're related to each other. I'll say that much. I might also put in there the Hannah theory about I think she's going to end up in 1888 just because I want to will that into existence.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be a good one. Right, okay, so we've got a fair bit to do because we've got we clearly have to do a Wincest segment today. We have to, and then we're also going to add in a few of the listener questions because obviously, as we said, we've got a special treat for you on Christmas Day, so we're not going to be having the question and answers video next week. Yeah. So what do you say, Konrad, we get into a little bit of Wincest?
Let's do it.
I don't know what it is, but when I kiss you, it's like I'm kissing my brother.
The origin is the man who is the father of Tronta. What implications does that have?
It's like everyone is related. Yeah, everyone is related.
Don't know if everyone is, but yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty all inclusive.
All the Dopplers are because Noah is like the father of Charlotte, and therefore like grandfather to Francisca and Ellie.
Well, but Noah isn't involved in that. It was Noah's in-law. It would be the origin.
What do you mean for the Dopplers?
Because no. But what I'm saying is Noah isn't a descendant of the origin. Noah is Agnes's brother. But Agnes is the one who marries the origin.
You're right. Marries. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Related legally.
Then. Yeah, illegally.
Yeah.
They actually got married. But the
Dopplers stand to inherit. Yeah.
So okay, let's just run through it then. So we have Jonas and Marta. Then they have the origin, and then and then the origin has Tronta. Tronta has Ulrich. Ulrich has Mikkel, and then Mikkel has Jonas, which starts it again.
Yes. So yeah, that's all kinds of fucked up. That like that cycle is no good for anyone. But so it also means that. Hold on, I'm trying to think. Yeah, Magnus and Francisca don't get any closer together by that, but it does mean that. So Katerina just comes out of the Albers. So there's nothing weird for her. I want to know. Yeah, I guess it hinges on where Noah comes from, because I don't think that all that really does is like basically finish the cycle. We get like no one's actually any more related. We still have the Marta and Jonas connection, which is all the worse because they are also their own
Like the whole
great grandparents.
The whole Nielsen line is formed from incest.
Yeah. So they're all related to each other because it starts with their like great grandparents having sex with each other and then getting together when they're actually cousins. No, aunt and nephew. So yeah, like there's a lot of shared DNA in that pool.
Great fun.
But the Noah thing is interesting because we know. I was thinking about this the other day actually after I'd watched this the first time because the Hanno Tauber name, I was like, that is on there, and I cannot express how much, as soon as that Hanno Tauber thing came up, I wanted to go and look at that Sigmundar's floor. So I was like, who's his goddamn parents? Someone gave birth to Noah, and that is going to really kick the hornet's nest when that happens. Because there's going to be some lines connecting people that do not want to be connected on that floor, I think.
Yeah, there's going to be like just like a fucking grenade thrown into the family tree.
Yeah. But I haven't looked at it. I'm gonna resist. But I think once we find out who gave birth to Noah, which I don't even really have any like who.
There's a character who's pregnant right now.
Yeah, but I think she's given birth to Peter. That's my theory.
That's
my theory with her. Because I mean, Peter's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And Helga's dad as well. We don't know who Helga's dad is because it's not Bernd. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of unclear parentage in this show.
Even the ones that are clear are a bit unclear.
Yeah. And then what's up with Boris Niewald? Where's he gone?
Yeah. Old Boris himself. Yasin, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen Boris's mum because, picked up Yasin from school.
Yeah, we have. That's true.
Yeah.
What's she up to?
Well, actually,
I want to see more about her.
Yasin's last name is actually Fries, so it's I don't think that character has a first name. Maybe they do, but I like to refer to that character as Jontje Fries.
I remember seeing that and being like, "Oh, that's interesting. That's the same surname as one of the writers. That's probably an important character."
I remember you said that in the podcast.
No, not in the slightest.
Never
in the show again.
Yasin actually is the one who caused the apocalypse, basically.
Well, I mean, Yasin is, but the
mum,
Mrs. Fries is. I mean, who knows? There's 4 episodes left. Maybe she comes back.
Yeah, here's hoping. Right, let's get into the questions and
let's do it.
Yeah.
A stranger from the outside.
Alright guys, as always, leave comments on this video for questions for Konrad and me. I like questions too. For episode 5 of season 3. Okay, so first question is from Milos Vitten. And Milos says, Satnam guys, thank you for another entertaining podcast. No problem. That's what we do. Konrad, how do you feel as a celebrity now? Anybody in private life calling you Konrad or stopping you on the street?
No, not yet. I'm waiting for the first sponsorship deal to be offered, to be honest. I will, sponsors, if you're out there, I will literally sell anything. I don't care. So get in touch.
Okay, well, it's only a matter of time. You're going to get called Konrad at some point. You're going to be walking down the road, someone's going to go, "Hey, Konrad!"
Yeah, and I'll be like, "Hello!"
Give
him one of those.
More realistic. Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. Yeah, don't talk to me. No, that's right. If you see me walking down the street, you are more than welcome to say hello to me.
Yeah, exactly. Next question comes from Livia, the Malazan potato noob.
Nice.
Now, I will say before I ask this question, Livia is actually just started a YouTube channel, and I've subscribed to Livia, and I'm going to be following along with her because Konrad, you've been telling me for years to read the Malazan Book of the Fallen.
Oh, yeah.
And Livia has actually just started a YouTube channel, and she's going to be going through it chapter by chapter.
Oh, amazing.
So I've bought the first book, and I'm going to be...
amazing. Yeah,
I'm going to be reading along with her videos. Now, I will say, I've said that, we get quite a bit of viewers on ours. Livia, I'm not putting pressure on you. Everyone, when you first start a YouTube channel, last thing you need is people saying, "When's the next video coming out?" Take your time. Don't, you make your videos as good as you can do and put them up whenever you're able to. But whenever you do put them up, I'll be reading along with you. And I'm sure Konrad's happy to hear that because he loves that stuff.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely check those out. There's a very good website that did I can't remember, it's what the actual URL is, but if you Google reread of The Fallen, they do like synopses of each chapter, because there is a lot of stuff that you can miss in those. But yeah, I will definitely be paying attention to that, because the Malazan Book of the Fallen is awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. And Livia actually said that that she sort of thought of doing, because she's up to a certain book. I don't think she's fully finished it yet, because she wanted to bring a new. The way she explained in the video was she wanted to bring in sort of a thing to the Malazan community that wasn't there, in that she's reading it for the first time, and it's usually experts on the books that make the videos.
Oh yeah.
So she
talking about warrens and all sort, and I don't know what a warren is.
Yeah, well, I have no
Yeah,
idea.
that's not going to mean anything to you. Yeah.
Well, we'll one day. But
Yeah.
but basically, Livia is said that she's going to possibly do a theory matrix for the book she's up to at the minute, because apparently Malazan has a lot of theorizing to be done.
Oh, you can theorize the hell out of the Malazan books. I think, given you like the Song of Ice and Fire books, I think you'll like them. I think they're better. But it's a similar kind of thing where there's a lot going on.
Okay, awesome. I can't wait. And like, guys, in the comments, let me know when I finish the first book with Livia, if you want me to give my thoughts on the book. I'll do that as well. Okay, so Livia asks, wait, because Milos Witten just said, does people call you Konrad in real life? Livia says, wait, did I miss something? He's not called Konrad in real life?
Well, yeah. We've
decided that we're Anthony James and Konrad. That's our names, right? That's our names. And we're going to continue to go by that. But we've decided to let you in on a little behind the curtain sneak preview here. There might be a reason why Konrad goes by Konrad, and a reason why I go by Anthony James, because it might surprise you to realize my name isn't Anthony James. Now, it is kind of my name, but my name is actually James Anthony. Okay, so whoa, that's a huge one. I don't think only people who pay very much attention know that, because you might notice in my videos with Ema, she calls me James, and my videos with my mom calls me James. So Anthony James is the name I chose. For one reason, I just thought it was cool to have a different name. Another reason, I'm a teacher, and I don't really want to reveal to my students straight away that I have a YouTube channel. If I hit like 10K, I'm like, yeah, well, I don't have to be embarrassed about it.
Yeah, then
now.
you can then you're in the big leagues. You can be like, come sub.
Yeah, exactly. But there's an even bigger reason for the fact that we have different names, because in real life, we don't have different names.
Yeah, my name is also James. So unfortunately, and like Konrad is my online name for like games and stuff. So yeah, unfortunately, we had to make a decision to be like, well, we either lean into the James and James thing, or we go for different names, and this is what we ended up with.
Yeah, so there you go. There's a little peek behind the curtain for you.
Yeah.
But now that you know that, we can have all sorts of funny exploits with the name James. So
well, and also, I think what we should do is we'll never mention that again, so that you have to have listened to this episode to understand what our names are. Otherwise, it's just Konrad and Anthony.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. And then like people will be randomly calling us James in the comments.
Yeah.
And then other people are like, hang on, what's going on? Like, there was no James in the video. But yeah, you can imagine how confusing that would have been if we, like, on the bottom of this screen right now, it just said James and James.
Yeah.
All right.
Just use the same images as well. Although we've got webcams now, but
yeah, we have the same image. Right. Actually, let's ask a question about Dark now, right?
What? I was making a hilarious joke
Dark?
about how we can't possibly talk about Dark in our Dark. They've had 2 hours of Dark discussion. Now we're just going to talk about Dragon Ball Z and football.
Yeah, exactly. Ask us some more Dragon Ball Z. Who asked us about Dragon Ball Z? Was it Liam? I don't know who asked. Someone asked us about Dragon Ball Z. It was fantastic. So basically, Ulrai says, Dark is coming to an end. Konrad, can Jonas fix time, or is he destined to fail? If yes, how can he do it, or who can, if at all?
I don't think Jonas is going to. I think Jonas is going to have to make a sacrifice at the end of it. I think Jonas and Marta both are. Like my sort of Thelma and Louise comparison last week, I think, is how it's going to end, with them having to jump off a metaphorical cliff together to save things. I don't think it's going to be them that gets them to that point, though. I think there is a St. Christopher beyond the obvious Marta carrying the origin. I can't get past the feeling that it's Claudia, just because they're making a very explicit point of not showing us what Claudia's up to at the moment, which for such a major character feels like that's the show saying something's going on, and we're not going to show you.
It's very pointed, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I don't know whether you'd call that Jonas fixing things. or whether it's Claudia fixing things, but Jonas and Marta will be the ones to have to make the sacrifice at the end. But that's how I think that's how I see it going at the moment.
Okay, cool. MH asks, what do you think the reason is that Marta didn't give the unknown a name? It's kind of heartless in her opinion. I just assumed.
Well, you wouldn't.
I don't know why I assumed MH is a woman. Let's say their opinion.
Yeah, sure. Stick to the neutral.
But actually, come on,
pronouns.
guys. You accused Konrad of being a misogynist the other day. I just assumed that initials are a female. Come on, wait, like yin and yang here.
I can't remember what the question was.
Why do you think Marta didn't give him a name?
Well, I mean, you wouldn't want to, would you? If you're giving, yeah. Well, first off, look at him, and second of all, like if you're giving birth to the person that you know is going to like ruin the universe, you'd be like, he's hard to love. I'm not gonna. But also, I don't think she raises him. I think
He raises himself.
Well, maybe, but I mean, I think he's kind of spirited away by Sigmundus or Eric Lux to kind of train in what he
Eric
needs
Lux
to do.
is Marta though.
Well, yes, it's older Marta, but I mean, like, it's not.
So you think she? Okay. So not the young one doesn't raise him in your opinion.
Yeah, the one who actually gives birth to him, I don't think is going to raise him.
But didn't they all give birth to him?
Well, they did, yeah, but each of them gave them away to their older self
Yeah.
in sequence. So
True.
yeah, or maybe she just hated him. I mean, like it could also just be like, I'm not going to give a name to that.
Yeah, but I will also say, like, it's another one of those things. He never had a name, so whenever this one gives birth to him, it's like, well, ask the old, hey, Eva, what did you call him? We didn't give him a name. He doesn't have a name. Okay. He won't have a name then.
Maybe that'll be how Marta will break the cycle.
Just call him Gary.
I'm going to call him Gary, and then a single tear rolls down his cheek, and then he explodes in a shower of white light, and everything's fixed.
The name Gary is a fantastic name. I just picture a middle-aged plumber. And the thing is, like, I was at like a christening of my niece like 3 years ago, and there was a child getting christened, and they were called Gary. And
you can't. There's no babies called Gary. Like old Garys are born at like 50.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the baby did look 50. It was like, well, like if like I just know that baby looked like it voted leave.
It all looked like it came out of the womb and all its mates started calling it Gaz for short. That is a joke that probably won't play anywhere but the UK, so I apologise for that.
Yeah, I know. Right, okay. Next question comes from Seabad Moon. Actually, it's more of a comment, but did you guys notice the Easter egg of Apparat written on the chalk wall in the Stranger Marta's Bunker? So Apparat is actually the band who sings the theme tune, Goodbye.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's cool.
Yeah, they are musicians in the intro music, of course. Now, I will also say, they're the musicians in that, yes, but they're actually the artist who... Well, Apparat, I think, is a single... If I'm not mistaken, is a single artist who goes by the name Apparat. And there's another single artist, there's a female called Soap and Skin. Okay. And that artist is the one who gives the vocals to the Goodbye song, which is the opening credits. Now, I will just say, without giving away too much away, Soap and Skin provides a very, very key song in a very key moment in the show, which is really cool because they also give the vocals to the opening credits. Not
one that we've already heard, presumably.
We haven't heard it yet, no.
Okay, right. That's cool. I'm gonna look out for that, see if I can spot it.
Okay, awesome. Atahan. For Konrad, Hannah decides to keep the baby. Who do you think she will birth? Well, you've already said you think it's Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the unknown is the father of Tronta, and hence the husband that Agnes speaks of. Do you think we'll see any of their relationship? Do you think they'll actually have a relationship at all?
No. I think the way he talks about it in the church with Doris, where he says not all human connections are born of fondness, implies to me that Sigmundus basically said, you two are getting married, you're having a baby, and then that's like all that you're going to do. Like this is what has always happened, so that's what needs to happen. I don't think there was any real relationship there, particularly given we know Tronta spent most of his early life in foster homes or care homes. There clearly wasn't a father there to look after him. So, yeah.
It also implies it is actually a lot more seedy than that as well, because you have to remember, There's only one origin. There's two Trontas. There's two Agneses.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Got some like kind of Mormonism going on there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I will. That would be an interesting scene to see, though.
Although,
Two Agneses.
I maintain that they used the ball. Maybe it was just a little Easter egg, but the youngest version of the unknown, I'm almost certain was the body on the left hand side in 2020 when they were showing pictures of the people who died in the apocalypse. I don't know if that's something that maybe will get addressed later, but or maybe it was just a weird little aside. But they look so similar.
Okay, awesome. For Anthony, I personally remember really liking this episode the first time I watched it, but on second viewing, I ended up liking it much less. What are your thoughts of the quality of the episode? Like, I agree with Konrad. I thought this was a really strong episode. And before we started recording, I said the middle episodes of the season in Dark are just so good. Like, the writers have actually spoken about it before, that they do try and give a big reveal in the mid-stage of the season. Season 1, Michael is Mikkel. Season 2, Adam is Jonas. Season 3, the origin is the unknown. So, it's just the same formula for me. It depends if you're invested in the Hannah storyline, I think, this episode. If you're invested in the Hannah character and the Hannah storyline and the Egon storyline and the Doris storyline, if you're invested in those storylines, then you'll love this episode. I'm invested in every storyline throughout the show, every time zone. I could understand someone being more invested in particular time zones than others, so maybe the 50s isn't really as focused, but that's how I feel. Like, and I know you liked it, Konrad, didn't you?
Yeah, I think if you don't like Hannah as a character, you don't like seeing her, I could understand why you wouldn't like this, like you said. But I think in terms of the drama that goes on between her and Egon, and between Egon and Doris, there's some really, really great acting in this. And you still have those really compelling reveals as well. And I think that is when Dark is at its best, when it strikes that balance between the excellent writing and acting that we know they can do, and the really compelling reveals that kind of propel the plot forward. And this episode had both, so yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. That's what I have to say, isn't it? Awesome. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So actually, that's only when you say something that I'm not allowed to comment on, but I can say yes, it's good. So last question, and then we're gonna have to call it a day because it's our first one that's went over 2 hours. Again, something special coming on Christmas Day, guys. So the middleman says, haven't heard from Brent in a while. Hi, Brent. How are you? How are you getting on? How are you faring in this world at this stage? Brent says, question for both. The abortion person, not sure if it's a doctor, is named Mrs.
I doubt it.
Yeah, is named Mrs. Obendorf. Did you notice that?
I did, yeah.
An ancestor of the kidnapped Eric Obendorf. Do you think there is a correlation between the kids that were kidnapped by Noah and how bad their family has been over time? Eric's grandma did abortions. Mads' family has had killing Ulrich and cheating Tronta. Is this a reach, or is Noah more like Dexter and only hurt people who deserved it?
I don't think Noah was making a moral judgment on the people that he was sending back in time. I think he was just doing what he was told to do by the book. Yeah. With that said, I do think this show has gone to some lengths to depict a lot of characters who might appear good as at best morally grey. So Ulrich is a great example. There's a lot of people who have quite significant, sometimes monstrously so, flaws in this show, and so it's natural that some of them are going to be the victims of the time travel stuff that's going on in it, and the sort of barbarous acts that requires. But I don't know if they singled them out so much as it's just if you've got like a barrel full of apples and like 80% of them are rotten, you're going to pick some rotten apples at some point.
Yeah, you are right. Just to end off with the Obendorf comment. I've been keeping this within me for a while because I didn't know how to say it without appearing bitchy. But there's a podcast called Cine Binge, which started off going through Dark as well, like we are. One of the guys has seen it, one of the guys hasn't. Go check it out. Actually, I've listened to a few episodes just to sort of check out the competition. And you know what? Check it out. It's good stuff. So I'll give them a little shout out there. But I wanted to mention it because it's something that's been in my mind, and now I have a YouTube channel. I have to say what's in my mind. It's if you go over there very respectfully my version of that, like the alternate me, so to speak, who's leading their friend through the show. It just they say Oberman every time.
Nice.
I thought this community would find that a bit funny, but it is
like Tracy Ann Oberman from Doctor Who.
Yeah, like they're doing a good job, and I want to give them a shout out. But I just thought that was in my brain, and I couldn't get it out because I'm just thinking to myself, Obendorf. But actually, that brings up a question, and I didn't even notice this. Do they change it to Oberman for the dub? Maybe they do. Maybe they watched the dub, and it's, I don't know. That'd be weird, wouldn't it?
I mean, yeah, like I feel like changing
the weirdest
names...
thing the dub's ever done.
No. I mean, it's taken some pretty big liberties with some fairly major characters, so no, it wouldn't. But at the same time, you know, poor Jurgen, he's not got a lot going for him. Get his name right, at the very least.
Yeah.
Come on.
Exactly.
He's lost both of it. Well, he's lost one of his sons. The other one got broken up with. And like, really, the only thing of note he's ever done is have some drugs found on his property.
Yeah, and just to be respectful to those guys from that podcast, they're hardly the biggest characters in the show. Like,
yeah. I said in like the first episode that Jurgen Obendorf seems like the kind of character who dies like halfway through an episode of The X-Files just as he's about to reveal something important to Mulder and Scully, and I stand by that. I think his character basically existed in the beginning to be like to throw out the red herring that Alexander was going to be corrupt in some way, and then has just been irrelevant since then. So. Yeah.
But as I say that, it's out of respect I say that, and guys, go check that out. Cine Binge. It's another dark podcast. I'm sure you'll enjoy that as well. All right, guys, can you please subscribe? Can you please subscribe on audio apps? Can you please like the video? It does help. If you didn't like it, dislike it. Apparently that helps too with the algorithm. Any engagement is good. Right, apart from that, any final thoughts, Konrad?
No, I just like...
Drag this out.
I don't know. I don't know where we're going now. There's 4 episodes left, guys. There's 4 episodes of Dark left. I don't know how they're going to land this plane, but I trust that they will successfully.
Yeah, of course they will. Of course they will. You know, I wouldn't have started a YouTube channel. Well, actually, I started it before Season 3 came out. Forget what I said. Right, guys, we're going to go. Merry Christmas if we don't see you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the After Dark podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode.